So I'm coming off a week break for New Year's. I'd love to tell all of you that I enjoyed my break, but first of all, I was sick the entire time. You could probably hear it still a little bit in my voice. I had a pretty bad cold. And also, the world decided to implode in the week that I was off air. So I got a lot of catch up to do here, but as everybody knows by now, Donald Trump decided to assassinate a top Iranian general with a drone. We also have an Iraqi military leader who was killed as well. He was the head of, I believe, the Popular Mobilization Forces. Now, the Iranian general, Qasem Soleimani, he was the head of what's called the Quds Force. So, this guy has an interesting backstory, and the more you learn about him, the more you realize that what Trump did here is just totally unconscionable. So this guy first rose to prominence when he fought against Saddam Hussein in the Iran-Iraq War. And then, since then, he's been in charge of providing military assistance to Lebanon and Syria. So his most recent claim to fame is, first of all, allying with the Kurds, which is really important, to fight ISIS and Al-Qaeda, to fight jihadists that were taking over Syria. And he also aligned with the Iraqi government as well to do this. So there was like a united front against the worst forces of ISIS. And, quite frankly, he was one of the leaders in the fight to defeat ISIS, and he succeeded in defeating ISIS. And, all of the relevant information about this guy is that he was kind of viewed by Iranians as like an apolitical figure because he was not involved in the domestic repression at home. So you can blame, the Ayatollah. There's plenty of blame to go around, but generally speaking, even though he was in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard in Iran, he wasn't viewed as like part and parcel or partaking in the domestic repression at home. And, according to some, he was next in line to be the Ayatollah. And he defeated ISIS, and that's his claim to fame, and we assassinated him. Now, I just need everybody to understand that this is a dude who we were just allies with. So it wasn't like, while we were trying to take on ISIS, by the way, after we armed them and funded them, various jihadist groups, it wasn't like we didn't work with this guy. No, we did. We did. He was the front line on the ground along with the Kurds. So he was just our ally. And I'm going to get to a stunning fact later about the situation in which he was assassinated, what he was doing at the time, which is going to absolutely blow your mind. So the Trump administration says, well, we had to do it. I had to do it because he was about to attack us. Is there any truth to that? The answer is no. And anybody who's telling you otherwise is absolutely full of it. There's zero evidence to support that assertion. And as a general rule, there are no Shia terror attacks against the U.S. They come from the Salafists, the Sunni Wahhabist fundamentalists. That's where the attacks come from. They don't come from Shia. Now, when Mike Pompeo was pushed on this, because he went on the Sunday shows, they've been doing they do a terrible job by and large, those shows do. But there was a little bit of pushback when he was on one of the shows, and the person was like, okay, so you say that, Trump stopped an imminent attack here. There was an attack coming against the homeland? And his response was, no, we have intelligence that he was in the process of planning a plot to Americans in the region. So look at all the Weasley qualifiers they put in there. It's not that, oh my God, he was going to attack some, Americans. It's no threat to the homeland, no plan against the homeland, and we're saying that he was maybe plotting to attack Americans in the region. okay, this is now if you hear that and you're like, well, I mean, come on, maybe they know something you don't, Kyle. I'm going to get to some of what they're arguing in a little bit, and it's just you're going to be like, they went with that you're going to be stunned by this. So, they said he was going to attack us, and come to find out, even they admit when they're pushed just a little bit, there was no attack plot against us. We're saying that maybe there was one that was coming in the region, which again, no evidence for. And by the way, I do not believe that for a second. And the burden of proof is not on me. The burden of proof is on them to show us that, no, he was actually going to do it. Okay, show the proof. They don't have any. They absolutely don't have any. Now, here's the underreported craziest part. We learned this yesterday, and the U.S. media hasn't touched this at all. So Trita Parsi, who's an expert on Iran, he says the following. Wow, wow, wow. According to the Iraqi prime minister, Soleimani was not planning an attack. He was in Iraq. This is where he was killed at the Iraqi airport. He was in Iraq carrying a message to Saudi Arabia on how to reduce Iran-Saudi tensions as part of an Iraqi mediation effort. And then he's responding to a tweet that says, this is stunning. Iraq Prime Minister tells Parliament U.S. troops should leave, says Donald Trump called him to ask him to mediate with Iran, and then ordered drone strike on Soleimani, says Soleimani carrying response to Saudi initiative to diffuse tension when he was hit. So, not only is it nonsense that they were planning an attack, he was literally on a peace mission when he was murdered, when he was assassinated. A peace mission. A peace mission. So listen, then that begs the question. Why did Trump do it? Why did Trump do it? Why did he do it? Well, I've been looking at this from every possible angle, trying to really get into his mind, however dark that is, to figure out why he did it. And there's 4 things that are possibilities. They could be any one of these things, or it could be a mix of all these things, or just some of these things. The first one is, and I'm not joking about this, you might say, well, wow, what a reach that is, that this would be a reason for him to do it, or cause enough for him to say, go ahead and do the strike. But the first thing is, these two were literally involved in a meme war on Instagram. Soleimani was, unusually social media savvy. And, he was going back and forth with Trump on social media, on Instagram. There was one where he had a picture of himself standing in front of the White House with the White House blowing up behind him. And, I think actually, remember when Trump did the Game of Thrones thing where he tweeted, like, sanctions are coming about Iran? That was in response to something Soleimani said. Because Soleimani had, tweeted something earlier in that day that pissed off Trump. And, I mean, it's kind of crazy that this is the world we now live in, and we have, a pea-brained reality show president who cannot stand getting personally slighted in the least. And this literally may play a role, that Soleimani was continuously involved in a meme war with Donald Trump online. And, just understand, man, the United States ripped up the Iran deal. They were following the deal to a T. I mean, that's what the IAEA says. That's not what Kyle Kulinski says. They were following it. They were abiding by it. They were not enriching uranium to the point of getting a nuclear weapon. And, we pulled out of the deal, ripped it up, slapped sanctions on them, including sanctions on medicine, and people in the country are, devastated about this, and it's hurting civilians. And then now, of course, you're going to have the U.S. media and the administration try to spin it as if somehow we're the victims. It really is stunning, but that's what they're in the midst of doing right now. So that's the first thing, is that they literally went back and forth. Now, Trump never directed this stuff at Soleimani, but the speculation is this guy was like very active, Soleimani, on social media, and Trump definitely saw some of the prodding that this guy did of him. Now, the second thing is, Trump had said back in 2011 that he thinks Obama's going to bomb Iran so that he gets reelected. Again, you really can't make this stuff up. But that's another theory, is that, excuse me, the voices, I'm still sick and the voices, I'm just barely getting better now. That's not fair. I am getting better, but I'm still a little bit sick. So it's possible Trump is doing the exact same thing that he accused Obama of doing. Like, oh, I'm going to bomb Iran because that'll help me get reelected. Now, you might go, well, hold on, that seems wildly unpopular. I think it will end up being unpopular, but you have to understand that history shows, as a general rule, when a country goes to war, the population falls in line behind the president. So that might be Trump's thinking, and that might be why he said about Obama, I think he's going to bomb Iran so that he can get reelected. Now, Trump messed up, though, I think, because you have to realize we were massively propagandized for such a long time frame before we ended up getting into Iraq. They did like a year propaganda campaign where, they said he worked with Osama bin Laden, Saddam worked with Osama bin Laden, and Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. And they tried to argue that, oh no, you don't get it, he's going to attack us. Remember Colin Powell holding up the vial of, oh, we have, Saddam has uranium, yellow cake, look. Like, they had to beat the war drums for like a year to raise public opinion for what they're about to do. So, yes, Bush had high approval ratings at the time. By the way, later on, obviously, everybody flipped on the Iraq war and was like, well, this was insane. But at the time, he had a high approval rating, but that was after a massive amount of propaganda. Trump skipped the propaganda part. He went right to, we all woke up one day and went, oh my God, he just murdered an Iranian general. Are you insane? And then, by the way, he goes on to say, hilariously, oh, I did this to prevent a war, not start a war. Are you the dumbest person on the planet? I mean that seriously. That's not a thing. Imagine for a second that Iran assassinated General Petraeus, and then they, held a press conference and they were like, oh no, you guys are misunderstanding. We murdered your general to stop a war, not start a war. We would say, oh, well, here's my finger, here's the red button. I'm pressing it. That is clearly, by definition, an act of war. So they're insane. But anyway, he could be doing it because he's doing the same thing he accused Obama of doing. He might think it's going to help his reelection chances. And he also might think, hey, this distracts from impeachment. By the way, Bill Clinton did the exact same thing. Bill Clinton bombed what ended up being a pharmaceutical factory, I think in Africa, the Al-Shifa pharmaceutical factory. And he did it like during the height of his impeachment. And it kind of took the nation's attention off of the impeachment for a little bit, naturally, because it's insane to just bomb stuff like that. So that could be one of the things. Now, the third thing is, and this is what a lot of the reporting is indicating behind the scenes, is that all those embassy protests that were going on in Iraq, that Trump saw this, Trump got mad about this, and Trump was like, okay, well, I'm going to show them. Like, you can't just show up and do an embassy protest at an American embassy in Iraq. Now, remember the chain of events. So there was apparently, I should say allegedly, there's a U.S. contractor who was killed in, I believe, Iraq. And now they've released no information on this person. None. Nothing at all. But this is what the government's claiming. Oh, there's a contractor, U.S. contractor, who was killed in Iraq. Then the Trump administration turned around and said, we're just going to go balls to the wall. And they started bombing Shia militias in Iraq and blaming them for this alleged attack that killed one American contractor. Now, no evidence presented, no nothing. By the way, if I had to guess, whenever an American gets killed in these situations, my first guess is ISIS. It's either ISIS or Al-Qaeda or the Sunni fundamentalists. I would not go bombing Shia fundamentalists, or not fundamentalists, Shia militias, who are de facto on our side in this fight in the Middle East. But Trump decided, I'm going to, go nuts and bomb these Shia militias. So what happened? We ended up killing a couple dozen in the Shia militias. That's what then led to the embassy protests, where people showed up to the American embassy and they were protesting. They wanted the U.S. out of Iraq now. That seems to me like a pretty decent response. It's not over the top. It's not wild. Trump saw those protests, got extra pissed off, and then ordered the drone strike on General Soleimani. So that could be another reason, just mad at the embassy protest, because of course he doesn't like anybody pushing back on him even 1%. And then the fourth option is a very simple one, which is neocon pressure and Trump, being convinced by those arguments now. You got to remember, his administration is packed full of neocons. I mean, everybody knows when John Bolton was there and it got a lot more attention, but we still have Mike Pompeo there, who's just as hawkish as John Bolton is. We still have Gina Haspel there, and she's, again, one of the literal torturers from the Bush administration. So these are the people who are whispering in his ear every day. And, you catch him on the right day, and then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, go bomb Soleimani. Probably no concern whatsoever about the consequences, the fallout, what this could lead to, what we're actually doing here. So, that could be it also. Now, it's so annoying to me, man, because it's like the media should be educating you on this as well. They always talk about it like the U.S. is being defensive by definition. But that's not true. That's not true, and they've presented no evidence to show that. And you would think history in Iran is relevant to this conversation. Knowing that we overthrew their government, the CIA did, in 1953, because they elected a guy by the name of Mohammad Mossadegh who was going to nationalize Iranian oil and give the profits to the Iranian people. We said, no, you're not allowed to do that. We overthrew a democratically elected government, put the Shah into place, who was a dictator, and the Shah kept giving the U.S. and the U.K. cheap oil. So you would think that history is relevant, that we've been super mad at the Iranian government since 1979. When the Shah was ousted, there was the Islamic Revolution. We've hated the Iranian government ever since then. Why? Because they were our puppet state and they stepped out of line. And now we want to make them a puppet state again. We have ever since 1979. And now there's enough bloodthirsty maniacs in the administration to try to make that happen. Now, this also, the idea is Soleimani's killed, then what's Iran going to do in response? And then after Iran does something in response, because they have to, you just murdered their general, then that's it. That's all out war. Then we're in there, and we're in there. Perhaps even ground invasion type stuff. So, Trump effectively declared war by murdering their general. There's no doubt about it. That's an act of war. That's declaring a war. He didn't get legal approval, which is a problem in and of itself, and a massive issue. It's unconstitutional. It's illegal. You can't do that. But he did that, and then Iran is going to have to respond, and then we are going to respond to their response. So this is it. We're watching it happen, guys. It's finally coming about. But so what could Iran do in response? Because that's the next question, which is a really, really important question. Well, listen, they have options, man. They have options. Are they going to, attack the United States of America? Are they going to bomb Cleveland or something? No, they're not going to do that. Because they don't really have the ability to do that. But also, the Ayatollah gave a speech and was saying very clearly, and Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, was giving a speech where he was like, we rule out, by any stretch of the imagination, attacking any American civilians. If we do anything, it's going to be against military sites. That's what they said. Which, by the way, is in stark contrast to Trump, who tweeted the other day, if you do anything in response to me murdering your general, I will attack 52 Iranian sites, including, quote, cultural sites. So that's saying, I'll attack civilians. I don't care. Isn't that telling? Hezbollah and the Iranian government are literally open about the fact we will not attack civilians. We're more humane than that, moral than that. And the president of the United States is like, no, I will attack Iranian cultural sites. I'll attack 52 sites. There will be a, quote, disproportionate response. Back in the day, the U.S. would hide the fact that, we would do a disproportionate response. Usually the idea is just do it tit for tat. Proportional response, because we don't want this getting out of hand. Trump's like, no, I want this to get out of hand. It's already out of hand. He murdered a general. But what will they do? Listen, man, It was either the Houthis or Iran last time that bombed Saudi oil fields. Iran could easily just take out more of Saudi's oil fields. They could probably, coordinate an attack on all of Saudi's oil fields. But the Houthis have actually responded and said to Iran, basically, like, you guys fight your own battle on this one. In other words, we're not going to get, caught up in doing an attack for you, because then, of course, the Houthis will get the brunt of the reaction to that, and I guess they don't want to risk the mass casualties that could come about if they were to attack on behalf of Iran. But they have oil. They have options, man. They could jam up the world economy in 1,000 different ways. They could attack U.S. military sites. They could take hostages in, U.S. embassies in the region. They could kill any U.S. prisoners they have. I guess they won't do that one because they said they're not going to go after civilians, but they have options, and they are going to respond. They are going to do something, and this is going to escalate even more. And the other concern about this is, guys, do you not understand that we're witnessing like the beginnings of the dividing lines when it comes to World War III? Now, some people say that's hyperbolic. You're just wrong if you think that's hyperbolic. It's not. It's not hyperbolic at all. Why would everybody think, oh no, we'd never have another like World War? That's crazy. That's what they said after World War I, and then we had World War II. Hey guys, Hitler was around in your grandma's lifetime. That's not that long ago. What, you think we outgrew everything since then? Of course not. So what would the dividing lines be? It would be China, Russia, and Iran versus Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the U.S. That's what it would be. Those are the dividing lines. Because obviously, Russia does not like the fact that their top ally in the region just had a general assassinated by the United States. By the way, so much for the Putin's puppet theory. Trump just assassinated a general to Russia's top ally in the region. It's Iran and Syria are their two top allies in the region. So Russia doesn't want this. China doesn't want this. Iran doesn't want this. And we just massively escalated. And are they going to respond in kind? Well, we just got news a day after the assassination. Now, Russia, China, and Iran announced, we're doing joint military exercises. Joint military exercises, I believe, in the Navy. So that's good. Now we're at a position where we could have some sort of misunderstanding or some sort of run-in between our, U.S. ships and Russian ships on the seas. That's wonderful. Nothing could go wrong there. We're playing with fire here, guys. Now, I'm still, after explaining all this so far, I'm still not done because there's a lot more to discuss here. Trump responded to this by sending 3,500 more troops into Iraq. What happened, dude? You're the, we got to get out of Iraq guy. That's what you said over and over in the 2016 campaign. Since saying that, he's increased in Iraq, he's increased in Afghanistan, he's increased in Syria, he's increased drone strikes all throughout the region. What happened? What happened, dude? It's casually. Yeah, I'm just going to send 3,500 troops. By the way, he uses the authorization for use of military force from 2002 to justify killing an Iranian general. Which gets to the next point, which is, and I'm not kidding about this, Mike Pence is out there saying, one of the reasons we did this is Iran facilitated 9/11. They're just insulting your intelligence at this point. They're saying like, okay, be a good little sheep and shut up and go away. Don't question the big boys. We're the big boys. We're taking care of it. Go do something else. They're not even trying, guys. They're arguing Iran facilitated 9/11. What is it, 15 or 16 of the 19 hijackers are from Saudi Arabia? The ideology is Salafist in nature, which is fundamentalist Sunni, not Shia at all. In fact, we share a common enemy against ISIS with Iran, because ISIS wants to do a genocide of the Shia Muslims. They don't even consider them Muslims. They're trying to tell you as a justification, because Iran did 9/11, they're arguing like Soleimani was somehow involved. That's utterly made up. By the way, there's another talking point going around where they say, Soleimani is responsible for killing Americans. No evidence for that either, at all. at all. They just say that. They just throw that out there. And I guess what they're trying to argue is, well, during the height of the Iraq War in the Bush years, we were also fighting Shia, not just the Sunnis, and so maybe some of them were trained by Soleimani, so yeah, he's responsible for American deaths. Again, they present no evidence, and the one story that they try to use has been debunked. So if I'm being as kind to them as humanly possible, they're saying, hey, maybe he trained some people who during the height of the Iraq War were some of the Shias who were fighting Americans. But they're stretching it. Oh, they're reaching so much. Yes, this top Iranian general is somehow a terrorist mastermind, even though he just defeated ISIS. He was one of the key reasons that ISIS was defeated, and he was on a peace mission when he was assassinated. The United States on this issue are the terrorists. The Trump administration are the terrorists when it comes to this action. No question about it. So increasing troop levels, Trump's doing. Mike Pence is blaming Iran for 9/11. And then, ready? Here's the cherry on top for this story. You guys are going to love this. So one of the things that Iran did in response is they've already announced we're not going to abide by the centrifuge rules in the nuclear agreement. Now, you have to say, that's already kind of crazy on their part, because what they're saying is, it's not that we're not going to abide by the entire deal. We're going to abide by certain parts of the nuclear agreement that we have, because Europe's still honoring it, and so we'll still honor parts of it. This is what they're saying. But we're not going to honor the centrifuge part. So, in other words, we're going to violate part of the Iranian nuclear agreement. Now, by the way, hilarious, the U.S. pulled out of that deal, ripped it up, put sanctions on them, including on medicine. They're illegal, even according to the International Criminal Court. And then, God forbid, when Iran says, okay, we're not going to abide by the deal, certain parts of the deal, now you have no idea the chain of events, because in U.S. media and in the Trump administration, they're like, oh my God, how could they? Look, see, violating the deal. You pulled out of it. You ripped it up. You sanctioned medicine. Are you kidding me? You broke the deal. You broke the deal first, way early on. Are you kidding me? But see, that's the thing. And Iran's response is, oh no, we're going to still abide by some of the parts of the deal, but the centrifuge part, we're not. If I'm the head of Iran, are you kidding me? I would be insane not to say, no, we're not going to abide by any parts of the deal, because a nuclear weapon, and this is, again, a politically incorrect truth, is a deterrent to U.S. aggression. There's a reason why a North Korean general wasn't murdered and an Iranian general was. North Korea has nukes. Iran does not. So, there's a reason why they're not attacking North Korea. They can respond in a very, very aggressive way. So, a nuke is a deterrent to U.S. aggression. That's just the truth. They'd be insane to not want to get nukes at this point, given what the U.S. just did to their top general. Are you kidding me? So, that's one of the things that Iran did. Now, there's going to be more of a response, of course. There has to be. We just murdered their top general. They have to do something. They have to. They have no option. But in Iraq, the parliament just voted the U.S. out. They said, no more. No status of forces agreement. You're not going to stay here. You're not going to linger around. Get out. Because again, also, on top of the Iranian general being murdered, also, a popular Iraqi military leader was murdered as well. So they're, of course, flipping out, and they're like, get out. We don't want you in our country anymore. So what was Trump's response? Now, mind you, again, this is the guy who campaigned on getting out of Iraq. What did he say? He goes, okay, no, now we're staying indefinitely. So because I said let's get out, then Iraq goes, okay, we want you out also. We just voted it. It was a unanimous vote. It was like 170-0 or something like that. And Trump goes, wrong. Now I'm staying there indefinitely. And oh, if you want us to go, you have to pay us for the military base we have there. Imagine illegally invading a country, illegally occupying that country, wantonly violating its territorial sovereignty, massacring civilians there, and then demanding a ransom to leave. Because that's what the United States of America just did. And right before I came on here to do the show, Trump was tweeting, all caps, Iran will never get a nuclear weapon. And he's been nonstop now, every day, tweeting, getting more and more aggressive, more and more unhinged towards Iran, because God forbid Iran is responding and going, we obviously can't just let a murder of one of our generals stand. That's not a thing. And here we are. We're in hell. If I told you everything I just told you, if this was in a movie, you'd be like, that's too unrealistic. Because the U.S. is acting too much like the cartoon villain here. But that's what's happening. I'm going to repeat this. Illegal under U.S. law, illegal under international law, unconstitutional because he didn't get a declaration of war. Trump tweeted yesterday, consider this my declaration of war. I'm letting Congress know that this is what I'm going to do. Now, there has never been a more important time for full-throated opposition across the board, not just on procedural grounds, which unfortunately is way too common. Soleimani was a very bad man, and so we agree on that. But if you want to do this, you better get approval and fill out the right paperwork. No. If you just resist on procedural grounds, you're so massively ineffectual and moronic that I weep over that. Because we need strong resistance to this, strong opposition to this. And thankfully, there are multiple bills now being put out there, Ro Khanna inspired, among others, that are saying, Congress is saying, no, we're quite literally not approving any war with Iran, and, we're blocking funding, basically. Guys, a door was just opened that people do not really grasp what just happened. They don't. People don't get it. They don't get what just happened. No good can come from this. No good at all. And if any other country acted the way that the United States of America is acting right now, the entire international community would say, you're a rogue regime, you're a criminal regime, and there needs to be justice. People need to go to prison. But we get away with it, and we just say, no, it's what we do. It's what we do. So, be afraid. I wish I could give you some, calming words here at the end. I have none. Be afraid. Be very afraid. This is not a thing. Random targeted assassinations of top generals of other countries when they're on a peace mission and right after they defeated ISIS is not a thing. That makes you the bad guy if you do that. And all the lies now about, people were dancing in the streets. This is what Ari Fleischer said. He was one of the ghouls from the Bush administration who's now defending this. This is what people in Trump's administration are saying. The line at his funeral, the crowds at his funeral, are the biggest crowds I've ever seen in my entire life. Look at what you just started. Look at what you just did. Nothing good will come from this at all. And just hold your breath, and we'll see what reaction they have. But they are going to do something, without a doubt, because they have no choice. You can't just murder somebody's general. They're going to respond. And then Trump will probably unleash the hounds at that point even more. And we'll be in an all-out war.